Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abby, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I am your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back. I feel all toasty and good, cozy because it's raining today. It's been thunderstorming in California, which I've never been here. Well, I have been here. I live here, but I'm saying I've never been here during a storm where there's actual thunder and lightning. And it's making me miss Arizona a little bit because Arizona had the most beautiful desert storms. Arizona has all of the dust, like desert sky, desert sunsets where everything's just painted orange, painted pink. And when there's thunderstorms, there is thunderstorms and they are very intense. And then you got the whole haboob thing where it's like a giant wall of dust, basically, and dirt that comes in from the desert. And if you don't know what a haboob is, I'm not even kidding. I know it sounds like a made up thing, but just go look it up on YouTube and try to find a video of one. It's pretty crazy. It's a little dangerous because it's literally a wall of dust and sand and dirt. So if you're driving and you see it and you drive into it, the second you pass the line, the layer of where it's coming, it's like a wave of it. The second you get in the wave, it gets darker and you also get dirt in your mouth. No matter if everything is rolled up, somehow you have dirt in your mouth and you like crunch on sand. It's in dust and dirt. And you're supposed to drive pretty slow when you go through it because it is kind of hard to see. Anyways, it's been a great day, honestly, because of the rain. It has been really sunny where I'm at, and it's just nice to have a little bit of the cozy, rainy vibes. I really love how much it makes you love stuff more when you miss it and when you don't have it for a while. I think that's a beautiful part about life. And there's always things that you don't have that you miss. And then when you get them, you're happy. And it's just a cycle of that. Like I missed the sun and then it was super sunny and I was super happy. But then it was sunny for a long time and then I kind of missed the rain. And I am content in the moment, okay? I will make myself happy, but it doesn't take away from the sweetness of getting something that you kind of wanted, that you were missing. Well, today's episode is one focused on trusting yourself, and especially because a lot of the times when you experience OCD, you lose a lot of trust with yourself. There's a lot of us that have it, experience long periods where we don't trust ourselves either with people, like we don't trust ourselves to be around people, to be in the vicinity of people because we're scared we're going to hurt them, that we're dangerous, that we're bad in some way, or that we are just dangerous. And then some of us go through times where we don't want to be alone because we're scared we're going to be a danger to ourselves, or we just don't like to be alone with our thoughts. And it really starts to affect the way that you trust yourself and you trust your judgment and your decisions. And I think this is a really big deal with OCD, and I see it in myself. I see it in people that I know that have OCD as well, and it's something that I notice when I listen to other people talk about their OCD on podcasts or videos or YouTube videos or whatever. Underlying, there's a big hole that needs to be filled in terms of trusting yourself. I think I just wanted to bring attention to that and talk a little bit more about that and the struggles that you might face. And it doesn't always have to do with OCD. It can do with depression. It can do with suicidal ideation. It can go hand in hand with a lot of different things, including real event OCD. So if you actually did do something that, makes you second guess yourself, and this can cause unnecessary worry and obsessions and general distrust, but mostly distrust with yourself. and not trusting your own judgment, not trusting being able to be alone with your thoughts, and not being able to trust yourself, and losing that is a very painful thing and it causes a lot of suffering. So it's very important that if you find yourself in a place where you lose or you have lost trust with yourself, I think it's a good time to work on that and to take it back. But before we go any further with that, I wanted to share a couple life updates, dubs and L's, the huge, and then we will do a Dear Abby at the end. Okay, a dub for this week is that lately it's been hard to come home from work and record. And I like to take my weekends as a weekend and not work or do anything for like just Saturday and Sunday, no work. But lately it's been hard for me to come home and record and to have the energy to do that. But I really love doing it, but it's been hard to lock in. It's hard to lock in. But today on the way home, when it was rainy and I was tired from work, I've had a long day, I was locked into work, I was mentally focused at work, I got a lot done. And then I had the thoughts of maybe I could record tomorrow, and that accompanied feelings of dread and doubt and all of this, worry and why do I even do this? But before it kept escalating, I put my foot down and I said, not today. This is what you like to do. This is important to you. You know that. You know that to be true. So you have two decisions. You have one. The first one, you can mope around, be negative, record, and not feel good about it. Or two, you can accept the fact that you are a little bit tired and you can still have a great episode and record and be focused and be able to have a good recording day. But it is my choice and I have to choose which one. I chose the latter. I chose to put my foot down and reclaim my power after a long work day. I still have freedom, even though I work a couple hours for somebody else. I can still come home and this is my time. This is my freedom. I can just leave work there, come here. This is what I love to do and lock in. And that felt really good. And I'm going to do that every single week. Hopefully that translates into better episodes or just be able to do more things that I really love and enjoy it while I do it. So for my L this week, I am going to share my intrusive thought that was scary at first because who knows, could have been real, but also afterwards was funny. And now I think it's funny, but it was just a couple of hours ago, which is so classic because when you're in it, you're in it. Or when you're, anxious about something, like you're anxious and you're in it and you feel so real. Then after you're like, okay, whoa, that was crazy. What was that? So whilst I was at work, as I said, it's been there's been like a thunderstorm a brewing. And the first time I heard the thunder, it feels so powerful that I always feel anxious and afraid and like God is mad at me. Okay, that's like the immediate intrusive religious, whatever, scrupulosity type thing where it's like you did something bad, so God's mad at you. And this thunder is him screaming at you because you did something bad. And then it kept happening with the thunder, more lightning, and it got louder. And it was like shaking the building basically. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is the end. I brought this upon my coworkers. I have brought this upon the people here because I am a bad person and I don't know I can't pinpoint exactly what I did, but I'm sure I did something bad enough to where God is now mad at me and he's punishing me and he's going to punish my coworkers because of me. And that's where my brain went. Okay. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't actually believe that. But the way that OCD works is it's so convincing and it uses a bunch of different tools and sensations and it starts to pull on everything in its toolbox basically to get you to get worried about it because it's like, but we don't know that it's not God getting mad at you. So in the moment I had to think, yeah, maybe this is my punishment and we'll see what happens. But I just thought it was funny because Well, thunder does always scare me because it's loud and it feels powerful. And so I do get a little bit shook every time because it literally shakes the sky, which is a weird concept that it's just like, where is it? Like, I know it's like the lightning technically, but like when you don't see the lightning and you just hear the thunder, where is it? What's happening up there? What's happening up there? But then it's like you can see what's happening. If you look into how it all works, you understand the science behind it. But still, that's just a glimpse into random existential / religious OCD, fearful, random, intrusive thoughts that spark your interest throughout the day. It's just funny that OCD would think that of every single person on this planet, A, I am the worst one somehow, and B, that of all the people that work there, I am the one that brought this horrible thing upon us. And nothing even happened. It's just thunder. But it's like that's where it goes. Those of you who get it, okay? And those of you that don't, just know that it makes for a very interesting life and a very interesting inner world. So that was my L for this week. Okay. So going back to trust and trusting yourself and the pain of when you lose that trust, there are some things that are a little bit more simple to fix, and there are some things that feel more complicated to fix. Most things are more simple than we think. So I have learned, so a lot of us have learned probably already in life. And one of the things that can feel complicated but is simple and actionable is trusting yourself again. But first, I kind of want to talk about the loss of trust and kind of how that happens and what that can look like with OCD and with other things. But I can only speak to my experience, which is mostly just with the mental illness realm. The reason that we can lose that trust is because A, we get all of these intrusive thoughts, images, urges, and we don't understand what they are. So we just lack education, honestly, and understanding of what's happening. So that's one major cause, especially at first. And if you go a long time without being diagnosed with OCD or being diagnosed with something and understanding what's happening in your body and in your mind. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which I think is huge, is a lot of the times when we have OCD or when we struggle with just self-esteem or confidence or any kind of mental illness as well, people like that tend to not give themselves any credit at all ever because we think a lot. And that's not to say that we're like smarter. It just means we think a lot. I do believe that we are very intelligent and we think a lot about different things and the different angles of different things. But with that, we tend to never give ourselves credit. And we tend to rarely really acknowledge the times that we've come out on top, especially with the battles that we have with our mind and in the mental realm. I think we are just very sensitive and we notice a lot. We are pretty aware of things that are happening, which can be and feel like a burden at times. We also think a lot about things from a lot of different angles to like understand. We really enjoy understanding, and that's not bad at all. But sometimes if we aren't aware, that trying to understand can turn into invalidating our experiences, can turn into invalidating our own feelings, our own thoughts, our own beliefs, until pretty soon we are stuck ruminating all day, doubting everything about ourselves, doubting everything that we've experienced, believe, have done, and also doubting any good that we did, thinking, and this goes hand in hand with moral scrupulosity, is what were my intentions doing that? Maybe I'm not even that good of a person. Maybe I'm just doing it because I'm scared for some reason. And so we can go down this not fun rabbit hole of invalidating everything that we do, that we've done, instead of just acknowledging that we've worked really hard. We are conscious of what we're doing, and we have been in control of ourselves our whole life. Even though with OCD, sometimes it has controlled us, but even then, we've probably just made a couple of mistakes, and we can sometimes focus on all of the mistakes versus all the times that we were able to conquer our mental illness or OCD or just any type of tempting laziness or, whatever it is that we all struggle with. It's hard for us to see our life through a very clear lens because it's distorted through OCD's lens. It's distorted through a black and white. You're either good or you're bad. You've always been good. You've always been bad. It's like distorted through this lens that is an exhausting loop that never ends. It gives you no choice. It takes away your choice and it makes it so if you make any choice, it's always the bad one and there always could have been a better one. So if you continue to go down that rabbit hole and if you continue to live like that, which maybe you have for a while, it's not going to get you closer to trusting yourself because you're just showing your brain that you have to overthink every tiny thing and you can't just trust that you can make a sound decision and move forward. Obviously, if there's a pattern of second guessing yourself, always feeling like an imposter no matter what, if you aren't aware of that and you don't bring attention to that and put a stop to it while it's happening or after, or even just some gentle redirection, then that can definitely spiral into losing more and more trust. I think the last reason that we start to lose trust with ourselves, and the last reason that I will talk about, I'm sure there are so many other reasons. I'm just going to focus on the couple that come to mind for me. The last thing that I will talk about that comes to mind for why we lose trust with ourselves is that we don't do the exposures and we don't do the homework in the therapy that the professionals and the people who know this disorder are asking us to do. And when we do it, we're not doing it with the response prevention part. Because for OCD, the main treatment for it is exposure response prevention. I sometimes don't talk about it and explain it that much because I'm in that world so much where I know it back and forth, in and out, but I forget that this could be new to somebody starting ERP, so I apologize if I throw things around and I don't explain it. I will make note of that. But exposure response prevention, it's not just you expose yourself, like if you're scared that you are going to go crazy, you would expose yourself to staring at your own reflection in the mirror and say, I'm going to go crazy, I'm going to go crazy. Or do something that would start to spark that fear and bring up all of those sensations or thoughts or images or whatever it is that you are running from. So the idea is, instead of just doing the exposure and then doing what you always do, which is probably ending the exposure, leaving, repeating thoughts, phrases in your head, trying to replace one image with another image that's better, tapping on something a certain amount of times. Maybe you pray or you do something to counteract the feelings that you had or to feel clean of them or something. So you do the exposure, and instead of doing any of those things that you normally do to get away from the anxiety and to push it down or to push it away, you don't do any of those things, and you change your response to that anxiety. You change your response to those thoughts, to those urges, and sometimes commands. You change the script. You basically just change the script. You take your power back and you look in the mirror and you do the exposure, and sometimes it's not going to feel like you're powerful and it's not going to feel empowering at all. Sometimes it'll feel productive. Sometimes exposures will not feel productive, and that's just how it goes. I'm not gonna lie and say every time I've done an exposure I know I've done it right, or I know that it's affected me positively. I don't. Sometimes it feels pointless. All I know is slowly and gradually I am feeling better, and I'm not as controlled by my OCD. And a lot of the times the response changes to maybe I am, and maybe I'm not. And at first, I repeated maybe, maybe not, or I don't know, I guess we'll see. I did that one a lot as a response prevention. And sometimes it was just nothing, like to not say anything and just ride the wave. When you start to do real exposure, response prevention, homework, and therapy, it for me, it was very life-changing. It was kind of scary to do something different. Well, not kind of. It was really scary to do something different, and it felt so unnatural. I felt like I was doing something bad because I was praying less, and, I was doing all that stuff less, but I started to feel better. And then for me, what worked paired with exposure response prevention was acceptance and commitment therapy, which is just living based on your values and noting what those are. And no matter how you feel, no matter what thoughts, no matter what questions, you live based on your values. And if you need to reevaluate, then you do, and then you move forward, which I think was also a big piece for me. So those are the 3 ways that I thought of right off the top of my head that cause us to not trust ourselves. And so obviously, to combat those, the first one was just a lack of education and understanding. So obviously, to educate yourself, education is very important. I think with OCD, sometimes we become a little bit too, for lack of a better word, obsessed with educating ourselves to the point where we're just learning, like we're reading, we're listening about it, but we're not actually doing any of the work or practicing any of it. So converting the learning into practicing is important, but I think education first is necessary to understand your OCD and learn from professionals and people that know what they are talking about. They have dealt with it. They've seen people recover. And the second reason, which was that we don't always give ourselves credit and we don't always have the most clear vision and view of our lives and how much good we've done and how successful we are at certain things. And I think a huge way to combat that is to write things down that you've done and really start to, and this is not, to be super clear, this is not like if you're scared that you are a harmful person, like you're an aggressive person or something, you're not writing down reasons why you're not aggressive. That's not at all what I'm talking about. That's very much like a reassurance type of a thing and not super helpful. What I'm talking about is zooming out a little bit and just focusing on things that are not relating to your OCD content or your themes or obsessions. This is just about you, because you are not just your obsessions or your current obsession or, fixation on something. You have lived a full life, and even though you have had OCD maybe your whole life, it has not controlled every second of every day. It can just be helpful to look back on your life and write things down and just remember who you are, remember things about yourself, because that just might help you grow in your confidence and have a better view of who you actually are. Another thing, instead of just writing it down, is to practice being alone with yourself. Try to remember or recall what you loved to do that OCD maybe stole from you, and just start to do that again. And slowly you'll start to gain that confidence back, and you'll start to remember more and more about who you are and what you like to do, and that there's more to you than just OCD recovery and OCD. And then obviously, to combat the third reason why we start to lose that self-trust, the not doing the homework and not doing the work. So the answer would be to do the work, to commit to it and recommit and recommit and recommit if need be, over and over again. You guys, the amount of times that I have had to recommit to recovery and recommit to myself as just a person outside of OCD, recommit to my faith, recommit to my passions, to the podcast even. There's so many things that you just have to recommit to over and over again. And it's not saying that you totally fell off. It's just, no, I'm taking my power back and this is what I want to do. And you move forward with that. Okay, so that's it for that. I think self-doubt and not trusting yourself is one of the most painful things that I experience and that I have experienced with my OCD. It has caused so much shame and so much confusion and so much wasted mental energy and energy on things that I didn't need to burden myself with and things I didn't need to label myself as. It doesn't matter how long you've held on to something or how long you've lost that self-trust, you can always get it back. You can always get it back, and do not lose belief in that. Do not lose hope in that. Sometimes it can feel heartbreaking to believe in something or hope in something. I think that just is what makes life super meaningful, is if you keep believing in yourself and that life is going to get better and that you are going to get better and that life just gets sweeter. It's worth every second of effort to begin to trust yourself again, because there's so much freedom in that. Okay, let's do a Dear Abby and then we will wrap up today's episode.
Dear Abby, how do I balance... Oh, this is such a complicated question. I guess I'm asking kind of how you feel when it comes to like mental health, like mountaintop or like kind of valley moments, navigating those, because I feel like I'll have times where my mental health feels so good and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to feel sad again. I'm never going to be kind of like in the depths, like feel like I'm in a place of recovery. And then I'll be in those like valleys or those harder times. And I feel like things are never going to get better. So I'm kind of curious, like what your advice would be on living in the tension of both of those places. Thanks, friend. Bye.
I love this question. This is a great question. And it's also very relatable, that I think a lot of us experience month to month, day to day sometimes. The first things that come to my head from experience are a couple things. Maybe let's do 3 things again. First thing that comes to mind is when you struggle with mental illness for a long time or for a short time, it is so volatile. It is so up and down. It really does feel like, the mountaintops or the valleys. It's so high and so low. And we start to get, I don't want to say comfortable with it, but kind of like that's what we know. And sometimes that's all we know. And we've known for as long as we can remember, at least, that it's always been so high or so low. So that's where we find, sometimes it turns into how we find our value or how we know ourselves and recognize ourselves and feel comfortable in ourselves. I started to notice that for me personally, I was more comfortable in the super highs and super low, the roller coaster of it, and that version of me than I was when I just felt okay. And I wasn't super high or super low. I just felt kind of normal and even. And there were some good days, some good like bad days, but they weren't so high and so low. But keep in mind, I also have had a history of bipolar depression. Just keep in mind as I'm talking about this, my experience was really extreme. But then also I do know like there were times where it wasn't necessarily, from my understanding, bipolar ups and downs. They were kind of just ups and downs with my OCD because I was in recovery and everything just felt super volatile and up and down, because I'd have a good day and then a bad day, and then I'd have a good session, then a bad session, and whatever. Sometimes we have those high highs and those low lows when we're dealing, especially with something like OCD, where you're always on edge because like, what if, and you're trying to fix something. It can feel like that's how you're going to find the solution, I guess. If that makes sense. Like if you go high enough, then you're going to find the solution and everything's going to make sense and everything's going to be perfect. And then if you go low enough, you're going to hit rock bottom to where you're going to want to help yourself more. Because sometimes if you are looking for that one answer, that one thing that's going to fix everything, then that can further put you on this hamster wheel chase that is going to lead to nowhere. And you might find one thing that helps for a little bit. Like for me, I would find a podcast or something that would help for a little bit, and then that would wear off. Or I'd find a book that I'd read and it helped for a little bit, but then that would wear off. And then I would find some way to distract myself, like a game or something, or a medication even. And for me, a medication, as a disclaimer, was very helpful for my bipolar to stabilize. And I've been off it for a while and I actually feel really good. I'm just putting that out there. That was for my personal experience though. I don't know anything about medication or who should have it, who shouldn't. Anyways, back to what I was saying. The chase for that one answer, that one thing that's going to fix it all, can cause us more pain and more desperation, which can lead to more low lows. I'd say just be wary of that, I guess. But that's not to discourage from searching and trying to better your mental health or find something that works for you at all. I think that's just something I experienced, was trying to find the things that would fix everything versus I recognized that I had to do the work and I had to kind of go slow and just take it day by day, and that nothing was going to get solved overnight type of thing, for me at least. I kind of touched on this, but also sometimes we are more motivated when we hit rock bottom to help ourselves. So sometimes we let ourselves get to rock bottom because it feels easier to like help ourselves from that point. For me personally, when I recognized that everything didn't have to be so high and so low all the time, it was hard and it was confusing for me because I really only knew myself in the high and low lows. And I didn't know how comfortable I'd be when everything felt normal and even. Now that I've been feeling like that for a while, and I still have bad days and good days, but they're not so crazy, high or low either way, I'm learning to have admiration and love for myself, even though life isn't as hard as it used to be. It's sometimes hard for us to let go of the hard times. We really admired ourselves for working so hard through the hard times that when things feel easier, we feel guilty and we feel weird about it. I'm grateful for the person that survived that and who did everything she could, who was grinding and finding the therapy and finding all the medications and all the, YouTube things and trying to understand myself and doing all the hard work. And she was a baller, and she is me, and I am her, and I am still her. And sometimes we just don't have to suffer the same way that we used to. Sometimes we walk through those times where it's just suffering and it's survival and it's suffering and it's so hard. We get so much meaning out of it though. And there's so many pros that come from that. And also when the suffering is minimized because of work that we did or by, just the grace of God, then that's okay too. You can walk through those times, but you don't have to stay there. And I don't believe anyone is meant to stay there forever. I know with those volatile times, it doesn't feel like things could ever be even kill or things could ever be normal again, but they can and they will. Like I said earlier, just don't give up on that. Okay. Well, you guys, that is it for today's episode of Dear Abby. If you want to support the podcast, which I would really appreciate, it really helps. Like every comment, anything, listen, share helps me a lot. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. You can also subscribe, comment, anything on YouTube. And I also have a new Instagram handle for my podcast where I only post podcast stuff and all the things to do with OCD, mental health, podcast stuff. That's where I'll be posting it. And the handle is the Dear Abby Podcast. There is no it's just Dear Abby Podcast. So go follow me on there if you want to see some of the documentation of the podcast. Go hit that follow button. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. Love you. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to journey 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들